All right, let's talk about marketing strategy. You know, it's that secret sauce, the master plan that guides pretty much every move a company makes. If you've ever looked at a really successful company and thought, how do they do it? How do they win time and time again? Well, I can tell you, it's definitely not luck. It's all about having a smart, deliberate framework for success. So today, we're going to break that all down.
But first, before we get into the weeds, we have to clear something up. It's probably the biggest point of confusion out there. We hear the words strategy and tactic all the time, right? People use them like they're the same thing. But are they? Nope, not even close. And honestly, getting this one difference right is the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So let's get this straight. Strategy is your why. It's the big picture game plan, the destination you've put into your GPS. A tactic, on the other hand, is the how. It's the specific turn-by-turn directions. Think of it this way. If your strategy is to win a war, your tactics are the individual battles. Strategy is long-term and broad. Tactics are short-term and specific. And here's the best way to remember it. Strategy is about doing the right things, while tactics are about doing things right. Huge difference.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start way up high with the view from the top. That's corporate planning. Then we'll zoom in to the battlefield, how businesses actually compete. After that, we hit the most important part, creating customer value. Then we'll see how this stuff works in the real world with some killer case studies. And finally, we'll wrap up with the mindset you need to really think like a strategist.
All right, first up, let's head to the boardroom. Long before a single product gets made or an ad campaign gets launched, the folks at the very top are setting the course for the entire ship. This is corporate-level planning. It's all about defining the company's fundamental reason for being and figuring out where it's headed in the long run. So what does that actually look like? Well, it breaks down into 4 key activities. First, they define the corporate mission, the why we exist. For bigger companies, they then establish what are called strategic business units, or SBUs, which are like mini-companies within the larger one. Step 3 is deciding who gets what, assigning money and people to each of those SBUs. And finally, they're always scanning the horizon, assessing growth opportunities. This can be anything from intensive growth, like pushing existing products into new markets, to diversification, like when we saw telecom companies jump into the fintech world with services like Easy Paisa.
Now, a company's mission is super important for direction, but here's the thing, it's not set in stone. A great mission has to evolve. Just look at Amazon. They started out with a mission to be the world's largest online bookstore. Simple enough, but as they grew, that mission expanded to become the world's largest online store. And now, well, it's something even bigger than that. A strong mission is a compass, not a straitjacket. It should guide you, not hold you back.
Okay, so the view from the top is set. The big picture is clear. Now let's zoom in a level. We're getting into the trenches now, down to the business unit level. This is where the real fight for the customer happens. It's all about creating a specific game plan to win in your market. And that almost always starts with a good hard look in the mirror through a SWOT analysis, understanding your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when it comes to winning, the legendary strategist Michael Porter said there are basically 3 ways to do it. 1, overall cost leadership. You're the cheapest. Think IKEA or Southwest Airlines. But to do this, you have to be absolutely obsessed with efficiency. 2, differentiation. You're unique. You're better in some way that customers will pay more for. Or 3, focus. You pick a small, narrow slice of the market and you own it. The most important thing here, you have to choose. Trying to be all 3 is a guaranteed path to mediocrity. And hey, you don't always have to fight the battle alone. Sometimes the smartest strategic move is to team up. We see this all the time with strategic alliances, like the one between auto giants Mahindra and Renault. By joining forces, they can pool their strengths, share the risks, and tackle new markets way more effectively than they ever could on their own. We've talked about the big corporate vision and the competitive battle plans, but what's the fuel that makes the whole engine run? It's customer value. I mean it. Without creating real, tangible value for your customers, even the most brilliant plans are totally worthless. At its core, a winning strategy is just a better plan for creating, delivering, and communicating value to the people you want to serve. So, how do you figure out where that value is actually created? Well, Michael Porter gave us a tool for that too. It's called the value chain. It basically lets you dissect your company and look at it as a series of activities. You've got core processes like sensing what the market wants, acquiring new customers, and fulfillment management. Like when you use an app from Carrefour or Big Basket to get your groceries delivered. Every single link in that chain is a chance to either create more value for your customer or to let it slip away. See, creating value isn't some kind of magic trick. It's a systematic process. It starts with spotting an opportunity out in the wild. Then you've got to choose your value, what you're going to be for your customers, how you'll position yourself. Next, you design it. But it doesn't stop there. You have to actually deliver that value, you've got to communicate it, and then, and this is key, you have to sustain it over time. A great example is Telenor. They didn't just run ads. They built and sustained value for years through consistent branding and, just as importantly, a reliable network.
Now, at the very heart of a company's ability to create value is its core competency. Think of it like a unique superpower. And for something to be a true superpower, it has to pass 3 big tests. 1, it gives you a real competitive advantage. 2, you can use it in a bunch of different markets. And 3, it is incredibly difficult for your competitors to copy. Walmart's mastery of logistics, that's a core competency. If you don't have one, you risk becoming what's called a hollow company, basically just a shell that resells someone else's superpower.
All right, that's a whole lot of theory, I know. But how does this all actually work in the real world, with real companies and real money on the line? Let's ground all these ideas and take a look at how companies have put these principles into practice, sometimes with absolutely spectacular results and sometimes not so much.
This brings us to a massive, critical distinction. It's a trap that so many companies fall into. They confuse being busy and efficient with being strategic. That's operational effectiveness. It's just doing the same stuff as your competitors, but maybe a little faster or a little cheaper. Now, that's not bad, but it's not a strategy. A real strategy is about making a choice to be different. It's about performing totally different activities or performing similar activities in a completely different way.
I absolutely love this quote because it just cuts right to the chase. It puts everything in perspective. You can be the most efficient person in the world at climbing a ladder, taking every step perfectly, but if that ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, all that effort is for nothing. Operational effectiveness is climbing that ladder fast. Strategy is making sure you pick the right wall to begin with. And if you want to see a company that just absolutely nailed this idea, look no further than Southwest Airlines. They are a masterclass in strategy. Their strategy is cost leadership, period. And their core competency, their superpower, is unbelievably efficient operations. Every single thing they do, flying only one kind of plane, their famous quick turnarounds at the gate, no assigned seating, it's all designed to serve that one strategy. And the result? Decades of profit in an industry that's famous for burning through cash.
But a low-cost strategy isn't always a guaranteed win, which brings us to a really fascinating and kind of cautionary tale, the Tata Nano. This car was launched with a truly revolutionary strategic goal, to be the cheapest, most affordable car on the planet. The idea was to open up car ownership to millions of people who could never dream of it before. The entire strategy hinged on one single powerful idea: price. The story of the Nano, though, forces us to ask a really interesting question. How cheap is too cheap? The car really struggled, because its super low price tag created a perception that it was maybe flimsy or unsafe. It was positioned as the cheapest car, and that word, cheap, stripped away all the pride and aspiration that comes with buying a new car. You can contrast that with the original Suzuki Maruti. It was positioned as an affordable car. See the difference? Affordable sounds smart. Cheap just sounds, well, cheap. Okay, let's bring it all home. We've gone from the boardroom to the battlefield, from value chains to case studies. So, what's the big takeaway? What does it really mean to think like a strategist? Because it's so much more than just memorizing a few frameworks. It's a completely different way of seeing the world.
So before you run off to draft the next brilliant business plan, there's one last major pitfall you have to know about. A strategy can look perfect on paper, but it can be completely defeated by the reality inside a company. An organization's culture is like a massive ship. It has incredible inertia, and it is very, very hard to turn. A top-down strategy will fail if the people actually doing the work don't buy into it. That's why companies like Toyota are famous for their bottom-up approach, trying to build that strategic mindset at every level. A true strategist knows that winning the internal battle is just as important as winning the one in the market. And that brings us to the end. I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. Think about your favorite brand. It could be Apple, it could be Nike, it could be the little coffee shop down the street. Now that you have these tools, try to figure it out. What's their strategy? Are they trying to win on price? Are they winning because they're different? Or are they totally focused on a tiny little niche? Once you start seeing the hidden strategy behind the brands you interact with every single day, I promise you, you will never look at business the same way again.